नमस्ते दोस्तों। यत्र नार्यस्तु पूज्यन्ते रमन्ते तत्र देवताः। जिस जगह पर नारी की पूजा होती है अर्थात स्त्रियों का सम्मान किया जाता है, वहां पर देवता निवास करते हैं। आज के इस एपिसोड में हम चर्चा करने वाले हैं द कल्चरल प्रैक्टिसेस ऑफ विमेन इन हिंदुइज्म, मेनली फोकस ऑन मेंस्ट्रुएशन प्रैक्टिसेस। और हमारे साथ आज उपस्थित है एक खास मेहमान, मिस सीनू जोसेफ, who has been tirelessly working on menstrual health all over India. She is a menstrual educator and a pioneer of menstrual health movement. She has interacted with more than 17,000 adolescent girls and women to really understand those practices and problems firsthand and digging out the ancient science behind such practices. She is also the co-founder of Mithri Speaks, an organization which works on women's health. And she is also the author of two books. First one is Ritu Vidya, Ancient Science Behind Menstrual Practices, and the another book is Women and Sabrimala. A hearty welcome to you, ma'am.
Namaste, Aarti ji. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, ma'am, for coming. So let's start with a simple question. How does Hinduism see feminine? What do we understand by feminine?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you did not ask how does Hinduism view feminism.
That we'll talk later on. That is a follow-up question.
So no, congratulations on using the right terminology.
Correct.
Because what we understand is the feminine and not any ism. That's an important distinction to be made and for all of us to realize. So the feminine, as per Sanatana Dharma, is the creative power because of which all of creation exists. So, unlike Abrahamic religions where the creator is a male god, here we are very sure that Devi is the creatrix. So what we have is the creatrix, the feminine that creates. Now, this is not a gender that we are talking about. This is rather a quality. The quality of the feminine, which we call as Shakti, is that which empowers every individual and also the entire nature to be able to act according to their karma. So if there is no Shakti, there is basically no life itself. So the feminine is the basis of creation, maintenance, and our existence itself. That is the high value that we have given to feminine. And because as humans, we have limitations in understanding anything which is nirguna, we have given it nama and rupa in the form of the many devata shaktis.
Right.
Even the devata, we say devata shakti. So whether it's a male deity or a female, what is behind it, what empowers it, is the feminine quality, is the shakti. So that is how we understand the feminine.
Right. So when we have this concept of Shakti, which cannot be limited to any ism, so we don't need a shallow concept like feminism. Now, I often say that feminism is the new colonization of mind. It is taking us far from our dharmic roots. So what would you like to say on that?
No, absolutely. I wouldn't even say that we don't need feminism. I would say be aware of the poison of feminism and do not bring it close to you, your people, and your nation, because it is out there to completely ruin the dharmic perspective and the dharmic way of being. So let me just explain why I'm using such strong words about feminism itself, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is a concept that obviously came up in the West. So when we have to understand feminism, we need to understand what is the fundamental philosophy upon which feminism has come into being. Because if you take the root of feminism, you can only go as far as its goal is. So what is that goal? That is something we need to understand. And then we need to understand in Sanatana Dharma, what is the goal? And then we will know whether these two paths can ever meet. Can they ever be the same? Or are they completely different? And then we have to make an informed decision as to what is the path that we wish to pick. So in the Western mindset, in the Western framework, we talk about equality and liberty. So for them, equality is a very physical concept. They are striving to make all humans who obviously have biological differences and gender inequalities as somehow equal. So because of this, either a man's body or a woman's body has to change because biologically we are different. We don't see men menstruating anytime soon, but we have altered women's bodies in such a way that they no longer menstruate, they no longer wish to menstruate, they no longer wish to have children. Their biology itself has been modified. And there are two reasons why the feminist movement has led to this. One is that this false idea that equality means a physical equality. So they think that women are considered as equal to men only if they can do the same jobs as men do, hold the same positions of office as men do, receive the same salary as men do, and so on. So it's in this complete external basis of equality. In order to do that, women have to suppress their biological cycles. There's no question of a menstrual leave. Birth control pills, products such as tampons and cups, they're all meant to liberate you from experiencing the body of a female form. That is their idea of equality. Right. And in the process, women's health has suffered tremendously. If you just look at the numbers, menstrual disorders alone in England, 52% women have heavy menstrual bleeding. It's basically, if there are two women, at least one has a period problem. In the United States, around 30 to 40% women undergo hysterectomy before the age of 60. And this was a study that was done 10 years ago. It must be much more right now. Right? And in India, if you look at whatever study you look at, the overall percentage of menstrual disorders is thankfully so far still within around 20% or lesser, not more than that. But if we don't realize where this path of feminism and their framework of equality will take us, very soon our women will also go through that. Right. So that's one concept of theirs, equality. The second is their idea of liberty. That has translated into a freedom to pursue one's desires, primarily the pursuit of sensual pleasure, without having to face any moral, ethical, biological, or legal consequences. And as an outcome of that, we see the whole LGBTQIA++ movement. Now, some of these are biological, which even Ayurveda talks about, but a lot of it is just driven by social and peer pressure and is psychological, because we have become so twisted in our search for sensual pleasure that we want to not be held morally responsible for our weird behavior. So then we've come up with these additional movements. Correct. In the pursuit, for us to be able to pursue sensual pleasure, women play a very important role in that, right? So it became important for men to make women believe that it is okay for them to be objectified. And this is so funny, because the first wave of feminism, Aarti ji, in that women protested beauty pageants. They said, why should we dress up and, parade ourselves in front of others? Why should we wear lipstick and high heels and other things just to please the men? There was some sense in that. But by the time we've come to the third or even the fourth wave today, as they talk about, here women have themselves almost, asking for the right to be objectified. That is what it has come to. Yes. And I'm not talking about what they put out there, but just the way their own behavior is, it is like they want the freedom to be considered as a sexual object. And that is what feminism today has unfortunately come to mean. The repercussions of this, people keep talking about how India is not safe for women. If they simply looked at the statistics out there in the government websites, can you imagine? There are 7.5 lakh cases of rape every year in America. 7.5 lakh.
Yes.
And since we talk of...
Yes, I've seen that. I've gone through those statistics. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and since we talk of equality, 1 in every 10 cases of rape is of a man.
Correct.
This is what the ideal of feminism has led the society towards. Do not forget this. If you intend to take the path of feminism, this is where it will take you as a society. Do not forget this. We
Right.
only see, oh, the ideology, fighting for rights. It sounds so fancy. Please see the end goal. Please see where it will take you and then decide if this is something that you want for the women in your country, in your family. Now we will come to the understanding of the feminine as per Sanatana Dharma. We say feminine, right? There's a beautiful terminology, stritvam, femininity. So all of the Shastras, the portion of the Shastras which are for women, we can call it the Stri Dharma, which takes into mind the path for women in such a way that their stritvam, their femininity is not destroyed. So beautifully the Shastras have made these rules. I will not go into the details of it, but just as an overview to understand. The Shastras have said, Stri Moolam Sarva Dharmam. Women are the keepers of Dharma. We don't go around fighting for rights. Society treats us with enough respect that we have to empower ourselves and raise above circumstances to be able to help the men in our families and communities at large to be able to follow the path of Dharma. Every Hindu is aware that we have the 4 Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So like the West, we also have Artha and Kama. But the difference is, before that we have Dharma. That means through a layer of Dharma, when we work towards fulfilling Artha and Kama, even this very worldly process of Artha and Kama can lead you towards Moksha. And the one who has to take the leadership, the initiative in making this happen is the Stri, because Stri Moolam Sarva Dharma. So there's no question of empowering Shakti, because Shakti is the one who empowers others.
Correct. So, as per my limited understanding on Shakti and feminism, I once wrote a status on Twitter feminism is from slavery to empowerment, but Shakti is from empowerment to awakening.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
Right. Okay. So, coming to the main topic on menstrual practices, ma'am, there was a research done in the West in the 18th or 19th century, and it said that menses release a toxin called as menotoxin, and which is nothing but poison. So my question is, menstrual blood is treated as impure. So this concept comes from the West, and what does our text say about it?
So whatever studies the West came up with, like you said, the menotoxins or the pheromones, the later Western scientists dismissed it. Okay. They said there's no such thing. It is all pseudoscience. It is all nonsense. So they themselves dismissed it. What we have in Ayurveda, I will explain that. And it is something that we can all know through our experience, right? So what is the point of science if the only way to know it is in some lab and some hi-fi research facility? Science is something you should be able to experience and know through your pratyaksha anubhava also. And that is what I will tell you now. In Ayurveda, menstruation is considered as an internal cleansing process. There is an inner detox that happens when women menstruate. What is this detox? When we say detox, it means it is pushing out some toxin, something unwanted in the body. So let's first understand what is the toxin that gets accumulated, which menstruation is pushing out. So whenever we consume food that the body cannot digest properly, only a portion of it gets assimilated and absorbed. One part of it is excreted, and then a portion of it simply sits in the intestine and rots. This is especially true if we eat food which the human body cannot digest easily, such as non-vegetarian food. Or you eat food that is excessively fried, you eat food that is stale. All of this does not digest fully. Whereas if you eat, say, fresh fruits, right? almost all of it gets absorbed. It does not create this toxin. But when you eat unhealthy food, a portion of it sits and rots inside your body, releasing certain toxic gases. That is what we are referring to as toxins, and Ayurveda has the term for it called ama. Ama or amras. It's not the mango wala amras. It just sounds like that. So this ama is the toxin that builds up in the body. And if it keeps building up without us having an outlet to release, it will affect all our tissue layers, which we call dhatu in Ayurveda. The deepest tissue layer is the Shukra Dhatu. That is the layer which impacts your reproductive health. So if ama is too much, it penetrates up to the 7th layer and even your fertility gets affected. So that is why couples undergoing infertility treatment, one of the common things is they go for detox or Ayurveda's Panchakarma, which is basically 5 pancha methods of detox. It is to remove this ama. Now, nature is so wonderful that women have been given this ability that even without doing an external detox, once a month during menstruation, the ama is pushed out of your body. And the more ama you have, the more you will have menstrual problems. So the skin breaking out, that is ama releasing through the skin. Some women have nausea and vomiting, that is ama collected in the upper digestive tract that is being thrown out. Some women have excessive cramps in the abdomen and lower region. That is the gastric problems because of ama accumulated there, which your body is struggling to push out. Some women have loose motions. That is ama being cleared from your lower gastrointestinal tract. So if you want to have a pain-free period, make sure you don't accumulate ama. To not accumulate ama, eat right, do basic yoga every day except when you menstruate, because that improves your metabolism and helps you flush out ama every now and then. These are the simple things, and this is why menstruation itself came to be associated with releasing something impure. See, menstrual blood for a woman who's not having too much ama, if you put a drop of that blood on a simple cotton cloth and wash it off with normal temperature water, it should not leave any stain. If it leaves behind a stain, it means there is ama.
Okay.
And then you must take the necessary measures to cleanse your body of this ama. And because of this, why does this happen for women? Because we have to prepare our womb. We have to keep it clean in order to be able to reproduce. And because we can reproduce, we get this natural monthly detox every month. If you look at men's bodies, because now the question is, what about men? Don't they accumulate ama? They do. And if they don't do equal sadhana through yoga and exercise, and they're not particular about their diet, they will have a number of lifestyle diseases much before women do. We all know that. Whether it is BP or diabetes or cardiac issues, cholesterol problems, if you take men and women of the same age, for women, all this starts usually after menopause, because till menopause, a period takes care of her. Men get these problems much earlier in life if they are not regular with yoga, sadhana, and other things, because the ama is going on accumulating. Even if you see the overall lifespan of men and women live a little longer than men. It's because our period takes care of us during a very crucial, important phase in our life by doing this monthly free detox. So that's the association of menstruation with something impure being released. And if in the language of modern science, if we have to understand it, we have to study the functioning of the lymphatic system. How does the lymphatic system behave when women menstruate? If you study that, then you will come closer to understanding this concept of ama.
Okay, very enlightening, ma'am. There's a follow-up question on this regarding the practice of seclusion during menses. So, women are not allowed to touch God, touch plants, or enter kitchen. So, why is it so?
This is it's not an easy answer to give. I have described it in detail in my book Rutu Vidya, both from the perspective of modern science as well as our Indian sciences. If you want to understand it from the perspective of modern science, then we should understand the process of oxidative stress. So naturally, women's body goes through oxidative stress during menstruation and during ovulation. But when we ovulate, we have a natural antioxidant called estrogen that is at its peak. So that balances whatever oxidative stress that ovulation puts our body through. But when we are menstruating, estrogen is at an all-time low. So our body is going through oxidative stress. The natural counter mechanism form of estrogen, that is also not there. So what is happening is that your immunity is at an all-time low when you menstruate. And this causes a change in the human bioelectric field. So now we are moving to physics. We have to understand physics in order to understand this. See, all of us have an electric field that surrounds us. If this electric field has more negative electrons, negatively charged particles, which we call electrons, that means our immunity is good, it is well. If we generate more and more positive charge, because we are losing electrons, so in oxidative stress, your atoms start to lose electrons. So overall, the body generates more of a positive charge. That indicates a not so good immunity. Now, positive and negative are not qualities. In physics, it means charge. And a positive charge is associated with a lowered immunity, and a negative charge is associated with higher immunity and better health. You might recollect, because of COVID and Corona, there were these machines called ionizers that started getting installed in many office spaces. What were the ionizers doing? They were releasing electrons into the air to balance out the charge, so that whoever comes in, there will be more of electrons, and that will ensure that people's immunity is maintained slightly better. Okay, so this is the fundamental concept. So what happens when we menstruate is that our electric field has more of a positively charged particles. Now, when your body is like that, you will tend to absorb electrons from surrounding areas to make up for your loss of electrons. So if you touch a human being, you will tend to absorb electrons from their body. This is called electron transfer. You can look this up in physics. So when you draw electrons from another person, their body will go into oxidative stress. So that's why in our villages, if a menstruating woman touches anyone, they will immediately go and take a bath, because falling water will supply electrons. Why should menstruating women not do the same? Because falling water, yes, supplies electrons, but it also has the quality of turning prana upwards. Now, when we menstruate, prana needs to flow downwards to facilitate the menstrual flow. But water has this ability, and women know this. If you stand under a shower when you have your period, as long as your water is falling on your head, you will not bleed. If you're pouring mugs of water on your head, as long as you're pouring water, you will not bleed, because water pulls prana upwards. It temporarily stops your bleeding. So if women go swimming when they are having their period, so a lot of sports women discuss, oh, which is the best product. It's funny, because the minute you go underwater, your period stops. And that's why women swimmers have such severe menstrual cramps, because prana is turning upwards when it is meant to flow downwards. It causes severe menstrual disorders. The first sign is period pain, severe period pain and cramps. So I've just given an overview of this phenomenon. So where your body goes through oxidative stress, your electric field is more positively charged. So whatever you come in contact with, you will tend to draw the charge from it. When you draw charge from something, that goes into oxidative stress.
Right.
If you go to the puja room, or if you go to a mandir during your period, those are places which have a lot of negative electrons, negatively charged electrons, because that's what's good for us. This is one perspective I'm saying. Temple is such a vast science. I'm saying one point in it. And besides a mandir or a temple, they all work to turn your prana upwards towards your higher chakras. So if you're menstruating and you go to these places during that time, it will completely be in conflict of the physical process that's happening in your body. And that is why there are these rules of menstrual seclusion. Now, this is not something to be understood as theory. Many women who have studied Rutuvidya have started following these practices. And when they follow it, they experience their period in a whole different way. So many women who always had menstrual cramps suddenly are not having it just by following menstrual seclusion. Their bad moods suddenly calms down just by following menstrual seclusion. Because I've explained the entire science, but it is up to each one to want to have that experience and learn through Pratyaksha Anubhava.
Correct, ma'am. I happened to read your interesting post on Facebook wall where on Ma Kamakhya's annual menstruation, where you mentioned that women who live near the proximity of Ma Kamakhya's temple and those who follow natural cycles of Mother Earth will also menstruate at the same time. Can you explain briefly about the science behind the Hindu temples and how temples have a physiological impact on the human system? I know it's a vast subject, but briefly if you can explain.
Yes, I'll just give a small glimpse of it, but those who are
Yeah,
interested can read the book for more information. See, what sets aside a Hindu temple from a church or a mosque or a gurudwara? Why is it different? It's because in Hindu temples, every corner, every stone, every pillar, every step, every post is has the process of prana pratishtha done. Prana pratishtha literally means that you imbue prana into that object and that space. The person who has to perform this, they do intense tapas for many days to be able to have that. Basically, they become a channel of communication between the devatas and us all on earth. So the person becomes a medium through which the devata shakti is transferred into that space. That is prana pratishtha. When he is doing this process, he holds a certain sankalpa, a certain intention. So the quality of that devata will be based on that sankalpa during that prana pratishtha. And after prana pratishtha, the nature of that space is what we refer to using the term chaitanya. So you take the same deity. Let us take Shabrimala, right? Ayyappa sitting in Shabrimala, that is a particular sankalp of yoga, of moksha. That is why there are rules there, because only those who are ready for moksha should go to such a place. Then you have Ayyappa in so many other temples where he is a grihastha. The sankalpa is to help people in samsara. So there the chaitanya of that temple is different.
correct.
So in a Hindu temple, it's basically a living entity. So even if you are a non-believer, you walk into that place will interact with your body via the sukshma sharira. See, we all have a sthula sharira, a gross physical body that we know in whatever we can see is part of our sthula sharira. But we also have a sukshma sharira, which we cannot see. What does that contain? It contains our koshas, our chakras, our nadis, our marmas, and prana itself. These we cannot see, but we are comprised of this. What we call death is the decomposition of our sthula sharira. Our sukshma sharira will still be there. And a portion of that is what is born again and again. Right? So when we enter the Devasthana, there is an interaction between the energies there, between the Devata Shaktis there and our Sukshma Sharira. So based on the Sankalp and the nature of the Chaitanyam there, it will have an effect on us. And based on that effect, they make certain rules for devotees to follow and adhere to. And if you break those rules, it will negatively impact you. So this is just a very brief introduction to it. Now coming to Ma Kamakhya, It's a very powerful Shakti Peeth. If you go there even once, and if you are able to surrender your mind, then you will start to come in sync with her cycles. Ma Kamakya is Ma Prakriti in many ways. So the time when Ma Kamakya's menstruation occurs, it is celebrated as a festival called Ambubachi. That is the time when in nature we shift from Uttarayana to Dakshinayana. In fact, it starts on the day of the summer solstice. Summer solstice is the longest and the hottest day in the year. So that day marks a major transition of all the ritus, of all the seasons. And when in every season, why do we have 6 seasons in Bharat, 6 Shat Ritu? Because with each Ritu, there is a certain Pancha Mahabhuta which are dominant. So in Grishma Ritu, summer, it is Agni and Vayu Tattvas which are dominant. And that we can see the highest of that during summer solstice, which is the hottest day. Within a woman's body, when she has her period, Agni and Vayu Tattva are dominant. So you see, Mother Earth's menstruation also has Agni and Vayu Tattva. Within women's bodies, when we menstruate also, it is because at that time there is a dominance of Agni and Vayu Tattva. So if we are in sync with Mother Nature, her cycles and our cycles should be moving together.
Correct.
So when she menstruates, we should not attempt to conceive. In South India, during that whole season, they will, send the husband and wife away. Wife will go back to her mother's house. They should not attempt to conceive during that season, because that entire season, Ashada Masam, is considered as Mother Earth menstruating. You must not attempt to conceive. The best time to conceive is when Mother Earth is going through her ovulatory phase. That is in the Hemanta Ritu around December. And around that season, that's when Kapha is dominant, just as in a woman's body when she's ovulating and Kapha is dominant. So you see all the marriages and honeymoons happen around that time.
Correct.
At least in South India, we have this thing, this December onwards is the time when marriages and honeymoons happen. That's the best time to conceive. So this is how, this is just
Very
a
nice.
small...
Yes, I understand. It's a vast topic. Even I wanted to ask you more questions, but I think we'll end it here. And this brings us to the end of the discussion on this very interesting and a topic which remained unexplored for a long time. And I'll end it with a line from Sinuji's book, Rituvidya, which says that somehow being modern has meant that we dismiss everything ancient without a thorough investigation of the reason. So we need to discover answers to many such questions relating to our existence. I would request everyone to please read Sinuji's books, Rituvidya, and another book, Women and Sabrimala, to understand about the science about behind the temples and decode the logic behind existing practices in menstruation. Ma'am, thank you so much for your valuable time. It was great to have you on my YouTube channel, and I'm very grateful to you. It was a very enlightening discussion. Thank you so much,
Thank
ma'am.
you, Bharti. It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure.